There.
Hi, I'm Shadow Stevens. You're listening to Jimmy the Real Deal. One of a kind and one in a million. Say it with me. One of a kind and one in a million.
Okay, guys. Well, what another great show for you tonight. I'm Doc G, and of course, this is Hamilton Radio. You can watch us on the Roku channel, YouTube, Hamilton Radio, and also on my Facebook page, also on Jimmy Deal's Facebook page, and soon to be on our guest Facebook page. Alison Arngrim from Little House on the Prairie. Welcome to Jimmy Deal's show.
Well,
what an honor to have you.
For having me. Thank you.
Such a great honor to have you on the show. I'm such a big fan of this show. Now, you were born in Queens, New York. You grew up in Hollywood.
Yep. So
a whole showbiz family, too.
We left when I was really little, but I am technically a nice girl from Queens. But we bailed out early because everybody was in showbiz, and so we were chasing the thing. And my parents started in theater in Canada, but eventually they knew we were all going to wind up in Hollywood. And I had an agent by the time I was 3 and was auditioning. So it was right to work.
Your mom was a voice actor, right? And she worked on a lot of cartoons, Casper the Friendly Ghost, right?
Yes. I have some of the little guys. Wait, she was also Davy of Davy and Goliath.
Was she Davy? I was going to ask you about that. I knew she was on it, but I wasn't sure what character.
She was Davy. She was Davy and Davy's mom and Davy's sister and all of Davy's friends. And then the guy who was Goliath the dog was also then Davy's dad and the preacher and the policeman and the fireman. It's like they only have people. And she was Casper and she was Gumby. And then, of course, the guy was Pokey, so she was Gumby's mom and Gumby's sister, and the guy, Pokey, everybody else. And then she was Casper, Gumby, Sweet Polly Purebred, Underdog's girlfriend, and Davy of Davy and Goliath. So
that's
yeah,
amazing.
It's crazy. She was everybody. She was also some of the older members of the group here may remember. She was on the first Family album, with Vaughn Meter that came out.
Yeah.
It's all about JFK and Jackie and everything. She was the kid. She was Caroline and John because somebody had to do the little kids' voices because they had Jackie going, yes, this is welcome. This is the Oval Office. And this whole send-up of the Kennedys, it was huge at the time. It was this giant thing. But little Caroline and John, these talks do him so much good. That's my mother. She was literally everybody.
What a family.
Your dad was a Hollywood manager. He worked with Liberace, right?
Yes.
Liberace. What was he like?
He was awesome. I mean, in a way, Liberace was like the gay Elvis. I mean, this was amazing. Do you know he was the highest paid entertainer in the world at one time? That's how successful Liberace was. He said the guy was a genius. I mean, he was hilarious. I mean, I was 8 years old and I was a kid and they were like, we're going to Liberace's show. And I'm like, oh, okay. And my parents were like, no, don't say anything because, his fans, no one must know he's gay. And I'm like, I'm 8 and I know he's gay. I think this is a foregone conclusion. He was hilarious because he just sent himself up, didn't take himself serious, would come out and go, yeah, okay, my brother George, and he had his jacket lit up and he flew over the stage and it was like, and I pictures with him as a kid and he's showing me the ring that's a candelabra and the watch that's a piano. And it was bananas. And he lived around the corner. We rented a house in the Hollywood Hills because my dad's boss, Seymour Heller, and if you saw that movie about Seymour and Liberace, the Behind the Candelabra, Dan Aykroyd played Seymour. That was my dad's boss, and Dan Aykroyd nailed it. I can tell you that. So we rented a house in the hills around the corner from Liberace, like just in case I needed something. So this meant on Halloween, me and the kids in the neighborhood, we would go trick-or-treating at Liberace's house.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's great.
Come on, let's go see what Liberace's going to have something good. And he did. He would be off at a party, but the butler would come with a silver tray with these little pumpkins full of jelly beans. And it was fantastic. Now, everyone who worked with Liberace just tells these stories about how he was the greatest person to work for, shirt off his back kind of guy. He was awesome.
I love the picture in your book of you and Liberace.
Isn't that adorable? I did.
It's
like so
picture.
Little. There's Liberace, and I'm like, and I am kind of looking at him like, really, seriously.
That must have been great. You actually started in commercials too, right? At the age of 6.
I did. Yeah, my God, I guess SAG card around 5 or 6. I did commercials. I did stuff. I mean, I just ads I barely remember doing, but Hunt's Ketchup. Okay, this is how old I am. My first commercial was in black and white. I was in black and white. I'm that old. I did a commercial in black and white, and it was so cute. It was Hunt's was doing a thing where people were trying to put the tomato in the bottle thing, squishing, and of course my tomato broke and splattered all over me. And they've never heard a small child swear that much. So, yeah, I did Hunts. I did a bunch of games and things, and some burger place. I was on everything. I was on. There was a show called Juvenile Jury, and it was like kind of like a What's My Line for kids. And I was on that a bunch. I said I was like the Kitty Carlisle of the 3rd grade. I was on every.
That's so great. In 1974, you auditioned for Nellie, Little House on the Prairie. And you not only auditioned for Nellie, you auditioned for Melissa Gilbert's part, right? And the part of Mary as well. How'd you get Nellie?
They were seeing everybody. I mean, I always say the search for Laura Ingalls Wilder was like the search for Scarlett O'Hara, but for 8-year-olds. They saw everybody. Seeing people in New York and LA was craziness. And so I came in and read, and then, I came in and then I read for Mary. And I knew I was like, no, I am wrong for this. And then they called me back, and I thought, didn't they make this show already? They're done, right? And how many people are on this? There was a cast of thousands or something. I have no. I'm reading the books every day now on Facebook, right? I'm reading the books. I hadn't read the books. Had no idea. So I get there, and they give me the pages. And I'm like 12 years old. Me and my dad are sitting there, and I have no idea. Like, oh, there's another character. There's some other girl. All right. And I get the pages, and I start reading them. And I turned to my father, and I said, this is not normal. This is not a normal part. He said, what do you mean? I said, this girl's she's a bitch. And my father starts laughing. He's like, what are you talking about? And then I start reading it for him, and he dies laughing. He says, okay, you go in, you read it like that. Don't change anything. Don't change a word. Don't look at it. Don't look at it anymore. Don't rehearse it. Just go in. I'm like, okay. So I did. I went in, and it's that first episode where she does the speech about her home. My home is the best home in all of Walnut Grove. And I think that's what put it over the top, because Michael Landon and Kent McRae and Ed Friendly, the original producers, and they could not stop laughing. And I was a kid. I'd never seen grown men laugh this hard. And they said, would you do it again, please? And I said, oh, yes. Yeah, what, do you want me to change something, take direction? And they said, no, just read the thing about the house again. We have real lace curtains on all the windows, and our furniture is all bought into. They were just cracking up over this kid. So that was it. By the time we got back to the house, that was it. The deal was done. I was on the show.
Oh, that's so awesome. Why do you think you did so well with Nellie?
I don't know. It was so much fun because, you hear actors talk about not wanting to play boring cliche roles. They want to do something exciting. They want, they love villains because it's a role you can sink your teeth into. Even at 12, a lot of the children's parts, they were so goody-goody. Oh, yes, mother. Yes, father. And here was this girl. I mean, she was definitely didn't care about anything. And she was a character. She wasn't just, a nice little girl. Hello, good morning. She was this bizarre person. Right. And I was like, what fun. And I'm the villain, and this is exciting. And it was something I could really work with. And for me, it was great because I got to go to work and yell at people and throw things all day and then get paid for it. I mean, who does this? So I think it was the role of the century. I lucked out. I think I absolutely scored by getting that job.
So you could actually get out all your frustrations at work. That was awesome.
Everybody, you go to work, and what do? You have to be nice to people all day. There I am, 12, 13, 14 years old, didn't have to be nice to anybody. Go to work, and go, I hate you, and throwing vases across the room. I'm like, this is great. What? People ask my mother, they would ask my mother, well, what's she like at home? And she'd say, what? She's got it all out of her system. She comes home and takes a nap. Exhausted.
So great. Now, the set was pretty much in the 1800s. Was that tough for you to actually play a character in the 1800s with the conditions of the 1800s on the set?
Yeah, that's what was so crazy. I mean, we had some advantages. We got to go home at the end of the day, and if we were at the studio at like Paramount and later at MGM on a sound stage, well, that was okay because the sound stage was generally cool and climate controlled, and you could walk out of the sound stage and go to a restaurant across the street or to the commissary. But when we went on location, when we went out to Simi Valley, there's a place out in Simi Valley, California called Big Sky Ranch. Huge, huge. They film everything. When you turn on the TV, if you see somebody like on a horse, it's like they're probably in Simi. There's truck commercials, TV shows, movies, everything's filmed there. So you get out there, there's nothing. I mean, they had fancy like trailer dressing rooms that had like a radio and TV. There's no reception.
Right.
And we didn't have cell phones then. And there was the nearest phone was a regular like landline about 1.5 miles down the road. You had to get in a truck and be driven down the road to a house where they had a phone. There was no phone. No, you couldn't turn on a radio, no TV, nothing. They had air conditioning in the dressing rooms, but they didn't have it on because the generator, because there's no electricity there, they had to bring in generators. The generator made so much noise in the air conditioning that they're filming. So they said, well, we'll turn the air conditioning on for a couple of minutes before lunch and try to cool out the room. That's it. That's all you get. So, and where did you go to the bathroom? Porta potties, basically.
Oh, man.
The plastic outhouse. It's just a modern outhouse. That's all a porta potty is. So you got your modern plastic outhouse. You got your dressing rooms with no electricity or radio or TV in them. It's just a room where you get dressed and there's a sink and a toilet and a couch. You're in that outfit all day. You're in the petticoats and the thing and the hair and the thing and the all day. So you're like, it's the Twilight Zone. I've been transported to the 1800s. I've been kidnapped and sent to the 1800s.
Okay, Doc, what do you have for Alison?
Oh, Alison, I got to ask you, there's so many questions, but I'm going to ask you one question first. And you probably got along with all the cast, but who was your favorite cast member that you worked with the most, that you really liked?
Well, I mean, Melissa Gilbert right off the top, because something about playing mortal enemies, it's so much fun. I mean, we really look forward to our fight scenes. We'd beat on each other all week. And then on the weekend, we'd go to each other's house and have slumber parties and like make fudge. I mean, we're hanging out like kids and then playing mortal enemies. And so very, very strange. She's kind of like my kid sister. We still have this weird relationship, like we're sisters. It's like, how you do. We text each other. We speak in code. We have code names for each other. It's very strange. So she was my favorite. And then Steve Tracy, who played my husband on the show. Just most wonderful chemistry there. Wonderful guy. And then, of course, Catherine McGregor, who played Mrs. Olsen. Yes, just who does that? Who can do that character?
Well, I was going to ask you, did you ever come out of character? I know it's hard sometimes, but did you break character and sometimes you were too nice?
Well, our big challenge on Little House on the Prairie was to not laugh. Because especially the scenes with me and Catherine, the Mrs. Olsen Nellie scenes,
right.
There's some stuff that is so funny. And we had to like keep a straight face. Don't smile. Don't. And try not to crack. And Catherine, you saw what that woman did on the show. Catherine McGregor be going, and I'm 2 feet away from this. It's like going, don't laugh. No. Going, mother. And she's going, tell me. And I'm like, how do you not laugh? How do you not laugh? This woman is doing this in your face.
You're right.
And she would do things. You think, okay, I've got the scene down. I know she's going to do something crazy. And she'd be talking and suddenly decide to start picking her teeth in the middle. And you're like, I'm dying. We're like, I'm sobbing. So I would get her back. I got her back. It was her close-up. And we were talking, it was the one, marrying Percival and having the twins and the Jewish baby and all. Of course, Mrs. Olsen's having a fit over that. And at one point she screams, do you want to end up with a rabbi on your hands? Which is like the most insane thing to say in the first place. It's like, what? And when we were rehearsing, she was like, that's a really weird line. Okay, fine. And so she said it. And I had to get her back because she cracked me up so bad. So when she said, do you want to end up with a rabbi on your hands? I went, and that was it. She was finished. She was gone. So yeah, we would crack each other up. But that was the hard part, was to not laugh in these deadly serious things because it was just so funny. And then Michael Landon, he liked to play jokes. You'd be doing a serious scene, and he would do stuff because he wanted outtakes and try to break people up. It was like remember on the Carol Burnett show with Harvey Korman and Tim Conway?
Yeah,
and
right.
That's what it was like shooting Little House on the Prairie. It was like that.
That's so great. Wow. So Michael Landon, what was he like to work with? How was he as a director and a producer?
Brilliant, brilliant, and one of the funniest people I ever met. I mean, he was absolutely. He was crazy. He was very eccentric. So you had this guy just come off Bonanza, and he's Little Joe, and of course he knows all the women are in love with him, and that's why the shirt comes off in every episode. The pants are skin tight. Like he knows who's watching. So he had this wackadoo sense of humor, but he was a genius. He was writing episodes and he was directing. He directed like half and wrote like half of the shows, and then he starred in them. He's executive producer. He's doing literally everything. And yet he's also playing jokes. Like when I was unconscious after I've run into the tree, the one bunny, and I'm lying there, trickle of blood. And I'm waiting. They've gone to get Doc Baker, get Doc Baker. I'm lying there, stay unconscious, don't move. Okay, this is relaxing. And I'm waiting to hear cut, and I don't hear cut. I'm like going, this is really long close up. They haven't said cut. And then I hear a whisper, and Michael leans in, and I feel a finger in my nose. And Michael's gone, keep it rolling, and stuck his finger in my nose so he could have fun.
Man. Well, and
so yeah, out of his
you
mind.
did your own stunts too, right? You did all those stunts pretty much, you and Melissa?
We did. We had, now thank God we had the stunt women for the horseback riding, because there was some crazy, dangerous stuff with the race. So professionals did that. When I went down the hill in the wheelchair, I did go down a hill in a wheelchair, but when we had to do the big one, that part where she flies out of the chair in the summer, yeah, that's a professional. She flew out of that chair, did that somersault. But then they took me to a different hill with no seatbelt, no safety equipment, and just shot me down the hill in the wheelchair and filmed that.
Oh my God.
And then
what a famous scene.
But the mud fight is all me and Melissa, no stunt person in the mud fight. The river, they had a couple of stunt women for a long shot, but then they needed us in the river, clutching the thing with the water in our faces and swimming to shore. So we just did all that. All of our fight scenes, that's all us. We did an enormous amount. When I was about 14, they actually, the stunt people gave me a little patch from the Stuntman's Association.
That's so great.
I did so many of our own stunts.
Wow. Jonathan Gilbert, your brother on the show, he was actually related to Melissa Gilbert, right? Most people don't know that.
Everyone on that show is related to everyone else on that show except me. I swear to God. Okay, so you had Michael Landon, and then his daughter Leslie Landon was on the show. She played Miss Plum. And sometimes Mike Jr. was on the show. He had a small part. But then Melissa Gilbert's brother, Jonathan Gilbert. But then little Albert is Matt Laberto. Well, his brother Pat Laberto is Andy Garvey. And then you had the baby Carrie twins, and the baby Grace twins, and the baby Rose twins. And then you had my twins. Everyone is literally related to everyone else except me. They're all related to me.
That's great. What about Victor French? What kind of guy was Victor French?
Mr. Edwards, Victor French. Brilliant, brilliant man. So funny. Really, really great guy. And he used to play villains more often. Back in the days of the Westerns, he was the heavy bad guy. He was dark and hard. He was always some kind of swindler or robber, done something terrible to someone. And Michael knew him very well. A lot of people who were on Bonanza wound up being on Little House on the Prairie. So Michael picked us. He was like, okay, I like this person. I like the, I don't know how many school marms Charlotte Stewart had played before Miss Beadle. So they were like, come on in and do this one. He picked people and that he saw something, and he knew Victor, and he said, I want you to come on the show, and I know you always play the heavy. I want you to come and play one of the most beloved characters in children's literature. You're going to be Mr. Edwards. You're going to be like Santa Claus. You're going to be the guy all the children love, the most beloved, sweet sidekick character. Wait, I've never played anybody like that. And he's like, perfect. But he did, like Melissa Gilbert talked about her audition, and this is the thing Michael would do. Like, he didn't want kid actors who were too plastic. He liked that. That's why the show looked so good. They were so real. Melissa came in and she did the audition. They interviewed her and she'd done the whole thing and she was done. And as she was leaving, he would stop the kids and ask them a random question to see what they would do. Because if they were so trained by their stage mother that they could have a conversation. So he made it, and he stopped her and said, hey, how tall are you? Well, she was like 8, 9 years old. And offhand, she couldn't remember how tall she was, like, 42 inches or whatever. She went, and she tried to remember how tall she was and was totally thrown. And she remembered that when you're that age, your mom puts you against the wall with the ruler and the pencil. And so she said, I'm this tall. I'm exactly this tall. And Michael went, like lost it, went, okay, thank you, and turned around and said, her. We're hiring her. The kid who went, so this call. It's too funny. And it was the same thing. I came in and read, and he went, oh, for heaven's sake. And that, I was Nellie. People came in and read. Charlotte Stewart, who was Miss Beadle, when she came in, she went, another school marm roll. She came in and she thought, well, I have an idea. What the heck? What have I got to lose? There's the producers. There's Michael sitting behind a big desk. She said, I want to play the teacher. Okay. She said, can I use your desk? And he said, what? Nobody does it. She says, may I use your desk? And the other producers were like, oh, maybe this isn't a good idea. Is he going to be mad? And he went, okay, like, I'll bite. And he got up. So he sits down, and she goes by and sits at his desk, stands behind his desk with the three producers sitting in front of her, and they're kind of giggling. And she bangs on the desk and goes, be quiet, and starts the scene. And becomes this teacher and orders him to be quiet. And they were slacked out. They were in fit. She thought, well, either they're never going to hire me again or ever speak to me. No, they hired her on the spot. They were like, yes, get that woman in here. That's the teacher. And so he looked for these wild, crazy things. I can't imagine what Catherine McGregor did at her audition. The Mrs. Olsen. I wish there was tape of that. But can you imagine? She had to have come in and gone, they must have just gone, what planet did this? Is the spaceship outside? And then Michael no doubt went, yes, her. I mean, that was it. We didn't. Some people got approved. They say by network you go to the suits. I never read for the suits or got approved by network. Half the cast we weren't approved by network. Michael just said, no, I already hired them.
Oh, that's great. Wow. Tell us about Mr. Olsen, Richard Bull. How was he?
So wonderful. Now, he's the one we always say, we would vote him most like his character. He was Nels Olsen. He was so sensible and so kind and so intelligent, and so the voice of reason on the set. If anyone was carrying on, he'd say, now, we have to take these matters seriously. We have to think these things through. And he would give advice. And he was years later, 100 years later, we're having lunch, and it was when he was still in Chicago, right before he moved back to LA. And he said, I was telling him all the stuff I was doing because I'm incorporated a production company. And he said, I'm so glad that you've become a good businesswoman. We were very worried that you would become a flibberty-gibbet. Nels Olsen. Who says that? That's like an 1800s word. That's totally like a Nels thing. And he was very, very, he was just such a sensible, cool, lovely, lovely guy. Just wonderful.
Doc.
Always one question. Do you or do anybody from the cast compare yourself to other TV shows?
God, all the time. We're hopelessly competitive. We're a bunch of actors. We got going. Oh my God. Just the other day. So there's a lot of people doing these wonderful benefits for the Actors Fund that are helping all the people in the theater community, including the tech community for theater, everybody who costuming and who are having financial problems because we're in a pandemic. And the Stars in the House, that program, marvelous thing. They had every cast of every show on, and they chat and carry on, and then it's like a telethon. People donate, and we all donated books and things and bonnets and whatnot, autographed to give away. So first thing we asked is how much did the Waltons raise? The whole cast of the house. As soon as we were done, so how much did we bring in? Because our whole thing was we have to beat the Waltons. And they loved it so much. They said, okay, we're going to have to do something where we're going to try to bring back the Waltons and the cast of Little House and have like a game night or a contest where you guys can directly compete with each other because clearly you're all crazy. But yes, cast of Little House, we were like going, no, we're not going to let the Waltons have first place. Nah, man. And so yes, we do. And don't get us started on the Brady Bunch. No.
The Brady Bunch.
But do you know what's funny? Is everybody knows everybody. We're
right.
Mary McDonough, who was Erin on the Waltons, she would throw these Christmas parties for years where we'd go over and there'd be a bunch of Waltons people, a couple of Prairie people, and 2 or 3 Bradys. And everyone's like baking cookies and decorating the tree together. It was absolutely bizarre. But yeah, so we all do know each other. But yes, the competition is key.
So great. I got a question from Tommy in Brooklyn. He wants to know, did you get to work with Merlin Olsen on the show? And what was he like?
That was so amazing because, again, Michael liked picking these people. So NBC, because, hey, Monday Night Football, football was big, and they knew Little House had a huge audience of mostly women. And they're trying to get the guys to turn away from football for at least part of the show and watch it with their wives. Just remember when everyone didn't have 17 TVs in their house and you couldn't watch it on your phone, and if you didn't see it that night, you didn't see it because it wasn't streaming? Yeah. So it was a big deal to get the guys to tune in and get away from football. So Merlin Olsen had been doing a lot of commentary and starting to do the flower commercials. So they said, okay, we're going to make Merlin Olsen an actor. What if we put him had this huge star in football? He was the fearsome foursome of the LA Rams. Merlin Olsen,
LA Rams, yep.
Major person in football. And I mean, I'd even heard of him. I follow sports, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Merlin Olsen. So he was major person. And anyone who's into football was like, it's Merlin Olsen. So he shows up, and he said to Michael, I'm not really an actor. I don't know if this is a good idea. And he said, I don't want you to act. He said, I'm sorry. He says, I don't want you to act. I want you to be very natural. I want you to be you. It just do what you can, say the words, and if I think there's a problem, I'll help you and we'll do something different. Okay. Merlin's personality was such, his quality, it was so kind and gentle, the gentle giant thing. It so worked. And he would do the scenes, and Michael yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And so he directed him, and he was amazing. He wound up giving him a spin-off. Father Murphy was so good.
Yes, Father Murphy.
So, he was wonderful. And we kids, when he showed up, we're like, this guy is huge. And so we wanted to see what he ate for lunch. So at lunchtime, we all followed him. And he did. He got he was getting salad and super healthy things, but the plate was piled 7 inches high. And we gathered around to watch him eat lunch to see if he would finish.
Wow.
He was an enormous person. He was huge.
Also a football player.
He did Michael's funeral when Michael died.
Did he really? Oh, wow.
There was the big Jewish cemetery, and there was a rabbi, and there were various speakers. Melissa spoke, but the main person who did the eulogy and emceed it was Merlin Olsen, and he was fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. Great.
So wonderful, wonderful guy.
Wow. Tom wants to know, when you run into people in the supermarket, what's their reaction?
I'm lucky if they don't throw anything. People get really distraught. They do. They're better now. I have too much light. That's so much better. Yeah, they used to get really distraught. Now they don't scream at me so much. They go into. People are so chill now. I'll have people come up to me in the store and just whisper in my ear, "Love your show," and walk away. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, they used to get really nutty. Melissa Gilbert and I, when we would hang out together, were kids, we'd go to the supermarket. And if we got separated, people would come up to her in the other aisle and say, Nellie Olsen's at the other end of the store. You have to be careful. They're going to protect her from me. So, yeah, they think it's real. I've had people throw things at me. When I was a kid, I had little girls attack me. I've been kicked. I've been knocked to the ground. I've had a cup of orange soda thrown at my head. I've had people get – the best was long after the show, grown person at an autograph show, grown woman walks in. Grown woman had to get 40-something. Walks in, doesn't say hello, does not say good morning, walks up to the table, just stares at me and says, I forgive you. And she just leaves. Wow. And so she was really angry at me. I was like, I didn't do it. It was
One of my favorite parades is the Hollywood Christmas Parade. You had an experience during that.
I love the Hollywood Christmas Parade, even though I did get a McDonald's cup of orange soda right in the face.
Oh, man.
What was that movie with the Nicolas Cage, the weatherman, where he gets the milkshake? So it was 78. I was about 16. I think Eric Estrada was Grand Marshal or something. Richard Simmons was in the parade. He was right ahead of me, and he was making people exercise in the street. It was absolutely crazy. And I'm in this big convertible. He's going, 1, 2, 1, 2, people jumping off the and I'm in this convertible. It's this surreal thing going on. And I'm and people would read the thing and they'd go, boo, and it was they'd clap and then stop. And so I'm waving, and if they booed, I was yeah, the wrestlers. I'm having a great time. And then someone threw this cup, and I mean, the car was moving. It was a direct hit. I don't know how they did it. Just whack, right. Man. And it's orange soda all down my face. It was so gross. But that's, as I said, I was so happy because it wasn't a beer bottle and I wasn't killed, so
Thank God, yeah.
Oh my God, that's scary. Very scary.
Right? And I realized, I thought, people are so mad over something I did while pretending to be somebody else 40 years ago. I mean, what is going on? It's
crazy. Wow. What about the guest stars on the show? Ernest Borgnine, so many guest stars. Willie Ames. You have a favorite?
Johnny Cash. They had
Johnny Cash
on the show, for God's sake. I didn't get to be in the Johnny Cash episode. I am eternally bummed that I was not in the Johnny Cash episode. Patricia Neal, Oscar winner Patricia Neal. Patricia Neal was in the original pilot of The Waltons when it was The Homecoming. So, again, Patricia Neal was amazing. And she had, Patricia Neal, if you've read about her, she had a massive stroke at one time, height of her career, and she could not speak or walk, or they weren't sure she was ever going to be able to do anything. She recovered. She learned how to talk and how to walk, everything all over again from scratch. It was just incredible survival tale. And she went back to work, and they were worried on Little House. They're like, well, we have a teleprompter, and it's like, shit, nope, didn't need it. This huge speech was brilliant. But she would play memory games. She would let all of us kids were hanging out. It's Patricia Neal. She let us hang out in her dressing room. And she would say, when's your birthday? What's your name? When's your birthday? And she memorized all our names, all of our birthdays, and which celebrity birthday we were close to. She'd say, oh, January 18th, Cary Grant. That's the close to Cary Grant. And then 2 days later, we're working, and she'd go, and you're the one who's born January 18th, which is Cary Grant. And she would tell the child, oh, yes, you're Clark Gable. You're the same day as Clark Gable. And she memorized this stuff and would do this while she's memorizing lines. Amazing. And she would train her brain to remember after the doctors had told her she would never walk or speak again.
Oh, man.
Incredible woman. Lovely woman.
I have a question for you. My wife informed me that you were with Mason Reese as his wife on the show. Can you talk a little bit about
ex-wife. Mason Reese's ex-wife, right. Mason Reese, this is the nuttiest thing ever. So, Mason Reese says, he went into restaurant work. He was an actor, and then he left when he was a real little kid, and then he wound up running and owning restaurants and bars. Like, Alan Hale, what is a skipper, would come in, hi, welcome to my restaurant. It's like Mason Reese. It's like popping, hi, this is my bar, welcome. And he was in New York and very successful at this. So he says, yeah, I'd like to do a little acting, have another go. So again, everybody knows everybody. So this guy, Steve Wishnoff, I know, said, well, I could write a thing. So I get a call. Okay, I've written this show and it's Mason Reese. I'm like, okay, that's hilarious. And, well, you're not his wife. I go, no, you're his ex-wife. You're already divorced. It was like a terrible divorce. But you're still intertwined. He hasn't signed the papers. And, you live, your mother has a bar and he's still like living in the back room. So like his mother-in-law is his landlord. It's all a disaster. Like, this is great. He says, oh, also you've left him for a woman. Like, wait, what? Oh no, this is hysterical. And your beautiful wife is played by Erin Murphy, who was Tabitha on Bewitched.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Fabulous Erin Murphy played my beautiful wife. And so we're married, and then poor Mason is just like, and she's left me, this woman, and then my son doesn't talk to me, and I live in my mother-in-law's bar. And yes, and so he's just this terrible train wreck. and we try to help him and throw him a birthday party, and it was hilarious, absolutely hilarious. So yes, Mason Reese's ex, he always calls me his favorite ex-wife. He says, you're my favorite. Love you.
Wow. Now, you get along with Dawn Wells, I know, because she was in the show too.
So incredible. Dawn Wells, she played my mom.
Right.
I can now say Marianne was my mom for a week. I loved her so much. We did a lot together. For some reason, again, these weird show crossovers. Gilligan's Island.
Right.
Why Gilligan's Island, Little House on the Prairie, people would be hanging out. I don't know. But Dawn Wells and I first started hanging out in the 80s. We did a talk show in New York together. I think we did Sally. We did Geraldo. We were doing all these around shows, and we hit it off right away. And so we did a lot of charity events together. And then a few years ago, we did a thing in Virginia where it was a Christmas thing, and we read and then the wise men found the baby in the manger, did the whole Christmas pageant. And we did that, and then we wound up doing she played my mom in Life Interrupted. But yeah, Dawn Wells and I were constantly doing stuff together and events and things. So she was fabulous. I was thrilled to have her play my mom.
So cool.
Shannon Doherty, also from Beverly Hills 90210, was on the show.
Shannon Doherty. I know so many. Jason Bateman got his start on Little House on the Prairie. Shannon
Amazing.
Doherty got her start on Little House on the Prairie. It's like, wow.
Amazing.
She was coming in as I was going out, and then we also Missy Francis was coming in. I met her like once, and then Missy Francis, who is now Melissa Francis, the money lady on the news. She's the woman who tells you what the economy's doing. She was little Missy, she was little Cassandra, and now she's the finance.
Cassandra! Oh wow!
Cassandra, that's Melissa Francis, who's on like Fox and CNN talking about the economy. Yes, she has a degree from Harvard in economics, but she was constantly crying Cassandra. So yeah, everybody started on Little House. Yeah, Shannon Doherty with the little braids, and then of course Alison Arngrim, the little Nellie, the Nancy, the evil half sister there, who got to be. It was like Shannon Doherty was like the little Laura, the new Laura as Laura was grown up, and then Nancy was the new Nellie, and they would like. It was great. It's perfect casting. And then Sean Penn started on Little House on the Prairie.
Did he really? Wow, I didn't know.
It was so well. His Sean Penn's dad, big director, and he was Leo Penn. He was directing an episode, so he come on. He brought the kid with him, and he was actually had no lines. He was just an extra in the show. But it's the voice of Tinker Jones, where the guy makes the bell for the school, and all the kids get together and help make the bell. There's a scene where the Tinker's making the bell, and all his kids are gathered around, and there's this kind of gangly blonde teenage boy in a big straw hat. It's Sean Penn. It is Sean Penn. Little House on the Prairie. So yeah, all the good stars started on Little House on the Prairie, don't you know?
So I got a question from Millie. She wants to know what was your favorite episode?
Well, my favorite episode, and everyone loves this episode. Certainly Nellie fans love this episode. I said everyone loves this episode, and Dean Butler, who was Almanzo, goes, "It's not my favorite episode. Shut up." Bunny, where I go down the hill in the wheelchair, hands down.
Hands down. Okay.
Who does that? Did anybody on the Waltons or the Brady Bunch go flying down the wheelchair? Who pretended to be paralyzed on a show in the 70s? Nobody does this.
So now I heard you really had a broken arm, right? Before you did that episode.
That's what's so nuts is that right before we were shooting, I, of course, like an idiot, went skateboarding, which really, when you're on a television series, it's like, no, don't do that. But, of course, I went skateboarding, and I fell. I wasn't even doing it. I was, like, standing still, and I just thud. And I broke my little left arm. And so I show, the agent calls the producers, and I go down to the studio, and they're like, no. And then they said, go outside for a minute. And I went out of the room, and then I could hear them all swearing. And then they came back in, and I was like, here, let me sign your cast. And he's like, don't ever do that again. Okay. What they did is they said, well, we'll shoot this one first, then we'll shoot this one. We'll, like, work around it. But they said, we have this episode where she falls off a horse and pretends that she can't walk. We can say she broke her arm. She falls off a horse, so that's the real injury. So they put the 1800s thing, like Doc Baker splint, over the real cast. Right. It was amazing. So it looked really good. But when I'm in the chair and Doc Baker at one point says, "Oh, you can do it yourself. You can use your other arm." I was like, no, I can't. I actually cannot.
What was Doc Baker like?
Oh, Kevin Hagen. So sweet, so kind, also very funny. I mean, that whole cast, a lot of them, like I said, Bonanza, people knew each other. He was wonderful. I mean, and he played very different characters. He wasn't usually like the doctor and something. And Dabbs Greer, or Reverend Alden. How many episodes of Twilight Zone was the Reverend Alden? Like, do you know, he worked until he was in his 90s. Dabbs Greer lived to be 93 or 4, and he worked. He didn't retire. He's in the Tom Hanks movie, The Green Mile.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah, Tom Hanks, because he lives to be like millions of years old, he grows up to be Dabbs Greer. At the end of the movie, when he's like 150 years old, it's the Reverend Alden. So yeah, no, he was still working. He had a series at one point. He was like, I don't know, 95. And we're like, he's still alive. Wait, he's still working. How is he doing that? We're very impressed. So yeah, Dabbs Greer did not stop. But yeah, Kevin and we all stayed friends. I mean, we would meet up at autograph things, and we had cast reunions, and sometimes we just had cast reunions for us. One time we went to the racetrack. We would have parties, and someone would say, look, we need to get together. We're only getting together at funerals. We got to get together, not at a funeral. And we'd get together. Or there would be like the one in Sonora, which was a benefit for the Michael Landon Cancer Charity. And everybody, and it was incredible. Some of us hadn't seen each other in a while because we lived in different cities, but some of us just seen each other 5 minutes ago. And it was fantastic. So we always get together. And now online, there was Wizard World, an online autograph show. We did the Stars in the House charity benefit. And we're still getting together. Someone recently asked me, said, okay, how many cast members do you have on like speed dial on your phone? And I think it's like 14. I'm like, they're all, it's like, I have the entire cast on speed dial. We're still hanging out and talking to each other. It's wonderful.
That's so great. What about, tell me about what it was like to marry Nellie off. Then when they told you were going to get married, what was that like?
I was like, no, Hitler's not born yet. What horrible person are you going to find to marry Nellie? Who's going to marry Nellie? That's awful. What? You mean he's getting married off? I mean, sure, Laura and Mary, Mary was never married in real life, so they wrote that into the show, but I thought, how's Nellie going to get married? And they said, no, it's going to be great. And Michael comes running into the makeup area where I'm getting ready and says, yeah, there's going to be this episode's in a couple of weeks. And so Nellie gets married. This guy shows up and he's really short, but he won't take anything off of anybody. And Michael runs out of the room. And then he goes back to the room. And he's Jewish. And Mrs. Olsen goes crazy. And then he runs out of the room. And then he runs back to the room. I'm like, what is he doing? He's telling me this insane story. And then I walk down the hall and there's Michael's dressing room and the door's open. And he's got his yellow legal pad and his pencil. He's furiously writing. And I said, are you writing this episode right now? Like now? Like that's why you're running into the room and telling me what happens? Yes. Wow. Aren't we shooting that in a couple of weeks? Like really soon? And you're just still at the yellow legal pad phase? He's like, oh, it'll be done. So yeah, that's how he worked. It was amazing. But yeah, he actually went on the Tonight Show and said that his father was short and Jewish, and his mother was tall and blonde and very domineering. And he wished his father had stood up to his mother, so he came up with this whole relationship that this guy should show up, and it should be this whole taming of the shrew thing, but he should be a short Jewish man and tell Nellie to settle down. And I'm like, this is therapy. He's doing therapy. He thinks I'm his mother. What is going on around here? Oh my God, I'm like 18 years old and this guy thinks I'm his mom. So that was kind of bizarre, but it was so great because you don't know who you're gonna marry. You don't pick. They just say we found a guy, and I was only 18. Well, like Melissa Gilbert had to get married off 15, 16 years old. So it's like every time somebody came on the set, Melissa and I are like, ew, is that him? Is that him? Ew, is that him? And so when Steve showed up, we were like, oh, he's cute. Let it be him. We were happy with him, thank God.
I had a question for you. I had a real question for you. We were talking to Hal Linden the other night, Barney Miller, and we were asking him the same.
Hal Linden. I love Hal Linden. Oh, my God.
Well, because of Cobra Kai resurgence of the Karate Kid, would you be opposed to having some type of, if the writers were good, having a Little House on the Prairie reboot?
Oh, if the writers were bad, I'd do it. I don't. What? Absolutely. They're doing. I'm going to play with the singer. They're doing a reboot. I don't think any of us are in it. No.
Okay.
They're doing, and we don't know if it's like a reboot exactly. All we know is they signed the papers. Paramount TV, Anonymous Content, that production house, and the Friendlies who own the rights, they struck a deal and signed the papers, and they said 1 hour drama. Literally all we know. Are they going to focus on the time period the show is in? Are they going to do Kansas? They're going to do DeSmet, South Dakota? Which part of her life are they doing? Yeah. Or as I told someone, I said it could be an all Muppet cast. We don't really truly know. But they're doing something that will indeed be based on Little House on the Prairie. I have no idea if any of us will be in it. I have made it clear that I am completely available to play Mrs. Olsen. I will play Harriet if the occasion or need arises.
That would be awesome to see. Yeah,
I would do that.
I was watching today, and you had a little stepsister, Nancy. Tell us about Nancy.
So it's so totally crazy. So they write my 7-year contract ends, and they're like, "Are you coming back?" And then it's like I wind up leaving. As people did in the shows. So I leave, and then they go, "Well, now what do we do?" They decided that it was boring, so they had Mrs. Olsen throw a fit and have a whole breakdown and decide that she needs another kid. And she convinces Nels that she needs to adopt a daughter. She misses Nellie. Never mind that Willie is standing right there. Insists she has to have this other. So she drags poor Nels down to the orphanage. And no, not her, not her. And then she hears all this screaming, and there's this kid that got like locked in the other room because she's so completely raging and out of control. And of course, Mrs. Olsen wants her. And it's one of Catherine's greatest scenes where she goes to the door, she takes the girl her food, and she tells her, she says, I had a little girl, and she was awful, and I said everyone was jealous. I told her they were jealous, but I knew it wasn't true. She was spoiled. I spoiled her. And she admits it. And she says, because I was spoiled as a child, and I spoiled her, and I will spoil you. And she starts going off, I'll buy you a pony you'll want for nothing. I will spoil you rotten if you open this door. The door slowly opens. It's great, brilliant. And she takes her home and dresses her up in full Nellie drag, exactly like me. Alison Balson, who looked a little like me, she was the same age, and her name's Allison. Can you imagine that audition? She comes in and she says, "What name?" Allison. They're like, "You're hired." So she was very smart because I did the episode, The Return of Nellie, where I got to talk to her and meet her. She was very, very smart little girl. She had really thought about, she'd watched the show and she said, "Oh, I didn't want to copy you. You were doing your thing. That was Nellie. I didn't want to repeat that. I had to come up with something completely different." I said, "Oh, that's very clever." She said, "Well, you were kind of going with bitchy. I decided to go with crazy." I said, I think you've nailed that. Yes, that seems, because Nancy had a serious problem. Nancy was mentally ill and dangerous. So, and that's what she had, that was on purpose, that Nancy was one step beyond, that Nancy was actually seriously a sociopath or something. And nice choice. And so she went with that, and it really worked.
Wow. There were so many animals on the show. Were there any animal mishaps on the show?
I am amazed that someone didn't get eaten by something, because whenever you do stuff, we have a tiger, we have a bear, we have an orangutan, it's things go wrong. I'm so relieved. I had to be kind of near the horses, and I was near Jack the dog once, and I'm good. No, I don't want to be the orangutan. Thank you. Thank God I wasn't near the bear. Pretty good. I know Carol was saying when they had, it was a problem if an animal had to be asleep or play dead. You can't kill them. I mean, they had the rules even then about no animals harm, but you had to somehow knock the poor thing out and get it to go to sleep. This didn't always work. No, the animals didn't always do what they wanted them to. Even the horses would sometimes just take off running, and it would get really crazy. So yeah, it was very dangerous, really. We had great wranglers. There was going to be a sequence with bees. Mrs. Olsen bought a beehive and thought, this will be great. We'll have honey. She's going to get this whole beehive, which sounds like an insanely dangerous idea right there. And so they were going to put the beehive in the wagon. Of course, we hit a bump, and Mrs. Olsen and I were going to be covered in bees. And I was like, that sounds horrible. But this guy came to the set and said, "Oh, no, we have these bees we use for movies, and they don't sting. They're tame bees. They're like trained bees." And Michael said, "Trained bees, really?" So he's talking with the guy, and of course one of the bees flies over, lands on Michael's arm, and stings him. And Michael's like, "So much for the trained bees." No. And take your bees and get out of my show, leave, go away. And sends the guy away. Says, "No, beat it, scram, I don't want your trained bees." And he said, "We're going to do." So when you see that sequence, it looks like bees. Everyone who watches it says, "Oh my God, it's totally great. It looks like your bees." No. We're just going, help in the wagon, pretending. And they did stock footage of bees. This was 1970s technology. There was no CGI. They just took, here's some film from Wild Kingdom of some bees, and slapped it on. Much safer that way.
I'm also a very big Bonanza fan. Did any of the Bonanza cast come and visit him on the set when he was in Little House?
He did. Well, I mean, we had half the people who'd been in Bonanza on the show. So, yeah, people who were Bonanza fans, he would be crossing. I mean, he was still Little Joe. I mean, some of the crew members called him Little Joe. And I always was impressed with that, Michael's relationship with fans. People would yell at him in a parking lot, "Hey, Little Joe." And you would think he would get mighty tired of that, and that he might get mad. No, he would smile and wave and answer to Little Joe.
So sweet.
5 minutes later, he'd be like, "Oh, good Lord, Little Joe." But someone said something completely stupid. "Hey, Little Joe, where's Hoss? Ha, ha, ha." They were the first person to think of it, It's like, oh my God, yeah, you're a genius. And he would go, oh, he's in the kitchen with Hop Sing. And he would just go with it. And then he would like roll his eyes later. But he would go, yeah, sure, fine. And like the crew called him Oogie because his real name was Eugene Orowitz. And his nickname was Oogie. And they called him Oogie.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, he was surprisingly, for a guy who drove a Ferrari and wore the gold chains and had a house in Malibu, he was actually down to earth. It was kind of a weird contradiction.
And he had a little Hollywood in him, right? When he came on the set, right? As you said, he has the fancy car and the chains and everything.
The shirt's unbuttoned to here, and the pants are skin tight, and the gold chains, and the thing in the Ferrari, and he did get in the big sunglasses, and he did get married 3 times. So he had totally like Hollywood thing going on. But then at the same time, he ate with the crew. He was the first one on the set and the last one to leave, and partied with the crew, and was like Mr. Regular Guy.
How long were the filming days?
We were mercifully blessed because since half the cast was children and the kids can only work 4 hours work, 3 hours school, 1 hour rest of recreation plus lunch, that means at 9 hours, half the room is leaving. So that meant they could shoot 9 hours and then maybe shoot a couple hours of pickups with the adults. So for the night scenes, Charles and Caroline alone, they could do a little of that. So you could only do so much. So what they would do is they would say, well, let's go home. And he said, we work long hours in Bonanza. He had the crew from Bonanza. He said, what if we scheduled stuff so that most of the time we got out of here at 5 or 6 and went home for dinner? What if we all went home for dinner? And they did. They did. He says, it's mostly kids on the show. We're going to have to knock off early anyway. So they ran a really tight show, and we'd go in at some ungodly hour of the morning, like 4 or 5, but we'd be out of there. People would there were no 14-hour days, night shoots, just none of that. It was like, well, but he worked at a furious pace. People did things in 1 and 2 takes, and everything was like, go, 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 go. But then it's like, oh, we're done. So it's kind of good.
Well, 9 seasons, right? From 1974 to 1983. Wow, yes. Long time.
Yes, and then they actually, because there's 9 seasons, and then they did these like, let's drag it out more, the TV movies where they kind of had half season where they did the ones where they'd sit in the little house and talk about old shows was Bless All the Dear Children, and where they'd say remember the time, and then they could like rerun those episodes. So it's like 9 years and 4 or 5 TV movies. It's craziness.
Did you think it would last all these years when you were shooting this show?
It's the most surprising, astounding, crazy thing ever. No, if you had told anyone when this thing started that it was going to be a hit in the last 9 years, no way. And if you had told any of us that in 2021 I'd be sitting here and like, were you even born? Were you born when the show was on? I mean, people would be saying, so tell us about the time. Like, what is 2021? It's almost. We had our 45th anniversary in 2019. It's almost 50 years. And people are like, I like the one with the raccoon. People are, they've memorized the episodes. It's astounding. Absolutely astounding.
So tell us about what you're doing right now. I see you on Facebook all the time. Today you were making cinnamon chicken. Tell us about that.
I have to have a list, all the stuff I'm doing. So when this pandemic started, I was very distraught. It was horrifying. I was very, very lucky. My husband his job's essential. His infrastructure still work. I had a bunch of things like autograph shows, Little House on the Prairie conventions, Walnut Grove kind of things. My stand-up show was in New York, the Laurie Beachman Theater in New York on 42nd Street. I was booked, and then France. I would go to France twice a year. I was going to go to Ireland in October. That's how booked I was. Poof, literally like in an afternoon, every single thing was canceled. Everything, Ireland, France, it was all canceled. And I was appalled. So I was like, well, yes, obviously now my job has just gone poof, but also my being able to talk to the fans, my being able to create anything. It's like, hey, what am I doing? And my husband said, oh, you'll think of something. What? He said, you always think of something. And so a few days later, I thought, I should go back and reread the Little House books. I haven't read the books in years. And I thought, I can read them in order and like see how the story develops. It'll be really cool. And then I thought, well, everybody else is stuck at home. Why don't I read them on Facebook Live? And so in March, 1 year ago, what was it, the 20th? We just had our 1 year anniversary of this. I can't believe we did this for a year. I said, Okay,
Love it.
good afternoon, everyone, and went on Facebook. So Laura and Mary went to the bar and read the Little House books. And everyone said, how long are you going to do this? I go, well, Laura wrote a lot of books. I read all 9 Little House books. I read Rose Wilder, her daughter's books. I read Bill Anderson's books about Laura. I read Pioneer Girl, her original autobiography.
Oh, wow.
Then we said, I read books inspired by Laura. Then we read some of Anne of Green Gables, because that's like the Canadian Laura. So we did like 3 books, Anne of Green Gables. We got bored. So then I did Wizard of Oz. We took a vote, and some people wanted Wizard of Oz. So I got through like 4 or 5 books of the Wizard of Oz series. And that kind of bogged down. And by then, it had been a year. And they said, okay, what are you going to do for the 1-year anniversary? I said, I'm going to start over and reread it. So a few days ago. So we're reading Little House, and we make stuff, the maple sugar on the snow. We churn butter the other day. I was showing him how to churn butter, put cream in a jar. Mm-hmm. And then my husband was like, oh, it's not working. He said, well, I'll do it. And so I'm chatting away. My husband's standing there with this jar, and he's like, oh my God, it's working. And we churn butter. And he said, he's so excited. He said, can we do it again? Can we get more cream? So we're churning butter in the living room now. To come to that. So I started reading the books, big hit. And then I have a store where tin cups, bonnets, you can buy bonnets, you can buy the book, you can buy the tin cups.
I have the tin cover. It's autographed. Check that out.
There it is. You go on the site, you go, I want this, this, and this. This is how much in the shipping, and then you put in the card. And then there's a thing where it says, who do you want to autograph to? I will, whatever it is, I autograph it. I read a personal thing. Great. So we do that. Then everybody said, cooking. We want cooking videos. Do you want cooking? We want cooking videos. I can cook. Or Nellie Olsen, as we know, could not cook. One of the favorite lines from the show is, who's going to do the cooking? So people assume I can't cook. They've seen the show. People come over for dinner. They go, are we ordering in? Because they think I can't cook. I've been cooking since I was a kid. I love to cook. So I said, okay, I'm going to teach you to cook. I'm writing a cookbook, and I'm going to do a cooking show. And it's all about, for people who can't cook, for people who cook like Nellie Olsen, who think they can't cook. Simple stuff. So we made macaroni and cheese from scratch. We made biscuits. I scrambled eggs. First day was scrambled eggs. And this morning, because they all said, can you make cinnamon chicken like on the show? Ha, ha, ha,
that was great.
But I can't. I have this great recipe for cinnamon chicken. And the gag on the show is Laura goes in there and puts cayenne pepper in it to destroy me and Almanzo. So I do put a little cayenne pepper in the cinnamon chicken.
Oh, that's great.
It was so good. So I made cinnamon chicken, scrambled eggs, biscuits, mac and cheese. I'm not sure what I'm making next, but I'm helping people going, look, if you don't know, you don't need special equipment. You need a fork. You need a bowl. You don't need anything fancy. It's really easy and teaching them to cook. So let's see. Wait, I have Facebook Live. I read the books. Let's see. Then I have the cooking video. Yeah. Oh, I do my stand-up act now because I can't go to the beach.
Oh, great.
On stageit.com. And April 1st, which is Thursday night, I am doing my stand-up act. We're calling it Nasty Nellie is an April Fool. So April 1st, 8 o'clock your time and 5 o'clock our time in California. You log into Stage It, it's $10, and we have prizes and things. And I answer questions and I do my stand-up act, and it's hysterical.
Awesome.
I made a movie in the middle of all this pandemic. I managed to sneak out and make a movie. Very strict protocol on that set. Tom Cruise would have approved. He wouldn't have yelled at anyone. The movie is called Even in Dreams. Even in Dreams. It'll be out soon, and I play an evil rock and roll band manager. And I'm crooked and terrible.
Nice.
And the villain. Cooking, reading. Oh, I just started on TikTok. I only have 2 videos up, but if you go to TikTok, I'm there. I have a store. Oh, in my spare time. So all these benefits we're doing. They're doing Hollywood Squares. It's a benefit for the Hollywood Museum, and they got a bunch of people who were on the original Hollywood Squares.
Oh, cool.
Some of the hosts from John Davidson, some of the hosts from Hollywood Squares, and said, okay, it's all online. You just log into the Zoom thing, and we're going to make it happen. And we played Hollywood Squares, and they're editing it. It's a lot of editing. It's very complicated because having like 9 people on a Zoom call. But they're doing it, and it's going to be a benefit for the museum, and that'll be on soon. Then
Great museum.
April 15th for the Hollywood Museum in Hollywood. There's this thing called SPURDVAC, and is Society for the Preservation. They do old-time radio shows.
Oh, nice.
On April 15th, it's the episode about George Burns and Gracie Allen and their income taxes. And I play Gracie. I play Gracie online. And I go, yes, George. George, no, it's okay. It's on your taxes. It's fine. So I'm Gracie Allen, the 15th. Then on April 13th, if I can say the title, my friend Nora Burns in New York has a regular thing she does called the Selling Shit Show.
All right. There you go.
Celebrities, we come on and we talk and we have stuff like, and I might say, would you like this glass? And it's for charity, and we like a garage sale for charity online. It's really crazy, and I'm doing that on the 13th. I'll be doing that. So that's Nora Burns' thing on the 13th. I'm Gracie Allen on the 15th. I'm me on the 1st. And this just goes on and on and on. It's constant. It's constant.
So where are the links? All on your website, correct?
Yes. If you go to my Facebook's easy. Because I'm easy to find. It's Alison Arngrim. If you go to TikTok or Instagram, I'm Alison Arngrim. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I have bonnethead.com is the official fan website. Bonnethead.com. You're all bonnet. And there's links to everything. And I'm so easy to find. And so we got the store, and we got the readings and the recipes, and yeah.
And you can also get the book on Amazon still, right?
And you can get the book on Amazon, or you can get it from me, and I'll sign it and throw it in a book.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. What an honor to have you here, really.
And then you see, I'm late now because on Mondays I'm also taking a French class online because I will be going back to France eventually, and when I'm there, I do a whole show in French.
Oh, that's great.
So I have my French lessons on Monday nights. Je suis en retard pour la classe. Ah.
You're one busy lady, that's for sure.
Alison, can we ask you to do a sweeper for us, just for Jimmy Deele?
Sure. What do I got to say?
Just say you're who you are, and you're listening to the Jimmy Deele Show on Hamilton Radio. That's it.
Okay, so make sure that Jimmy Deele. I'm gonna mess this up somehow. Jimmy Deele Show.
I mess it up all the time.
On Hamilton Radio. Okay. Say when.
Whenever you're ready, just go ahead.
Hi, I'm Alison Arngrim, also known as Nasty Nellie from Little House on the Prairie, and you're listening to the Jimmy Deele Show on Hamilton Radio.
Wow, you're so good. Amazing. Thank you so much. That was great. You are a professional, absolutely. Thank you so much, Alison, for being here.
So much fun. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I appreciate it so much. We'll talk soon. Thanks.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Alison. Take care.
Okay.
That was great.
She was awesome.
Oh, man, what a great show.
What another great show, Jimmy. We're...
Everyone don't know I wore a wig.
Getting amazing here. We just got so many great people. I know Patty loved it.
Man.
Tammy
loved it. Flora loved
it. Flora, thank you, Flora. I know Cindy in Lake Ronkonkoma. She called me today. She was so excited about the show. So many people excited about today's show, Doc.
I know, and I can't wait to Wednesday's show because that's another special show. Who we got coming?
Yeah. Anson Williams will be back here on Wednesday, 4 o'clock. We're going to do a special celebrity spotlight this Wednesday, 4 o'clock with Anson Williams. Of course, he is Patsy from Happy Days. He had a family emergency last week, couldn't be here, but we're going to do it again on Wednesday. So please join us. Make plans for that. So many more people coming up. Next Monday, we have Liberty DeVito, Billy Joel's longtime drummer. He's going to be here. A lot of great people coming up and on the way. So just stick with us, and we'll let you know who's going to be coming up down the road.
I sent more to Jimmy, so I don't know if he put the feelers out. But like you said, in the summertime, we're going to slow down a little bit more, and we're not going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting probably in June or so, we'll slow it down a little bit. But we got Robin Beck coming up. She's a rock star. We got Matthew Biancanello, who's a celebrity mixologist and TV personality. We have Demon Wilson from...
I can't
of course, wait. I can't wait for that. Sanford and Son, he's going to be here. Claudia Welch from Back to the Future. So many great people. So just stick with us. We'll let you know who's coming up and who's coming down the road.
I want to give a quick shout out to my friend Joey Prout. He his oldie show making a return tonight on Hamilton Radio. It's a Sock Hop Soda Shop with Joey Prout. Joey's a good friend of mine, been a friend for years, and I just want to make sure I got that shout out. So HamiltonRadio.net, you can listen to Joey Prout's Sock Hop Soda Shop, all oldies and doo-wop and everything. It's just an amazing show. So
right, and you also have something coming up on Thursday, right?
Yeah, Thursday we have our main Zoom network meeting, and if anybody can be anybody, I try to get to this thing because there's going to be a lot of people there that said they're coming. And I'm hoping they do decide to come. They will be there. If they don't, then it's on them. But, you know, a lot of people said they're coming. A lot of children's book authors, a lot of book authors, and a lot of people that are just a whole bunch of different things, a whole bunch of different people.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to this. That's going to be great.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank everybody for listening today. Thank you, Tom, for your questions. My mom listening here in Brooklyn. Again, Flora, Cindy, Tricia down in Sun City, Florida. So many great people listen every week. And thank you so much for your questions. And thanks for tuning in to us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for watching us and listening to us live on the Roku channel. Me and Jimmy Diele and I, of course. This show will be up there for your viewing pleasure again once it's off live now. But thank you all for listening. We're really glad you came and we enjoyed it. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.